I was happily settled in life, having married into a wealthy family, yet, Mason sat across from me in the hotel lobby, mockingly commenting on my seemingly simple lifestyle. His sharp voice pierced the calm, taunting me with his latest boast. He had married the daughter of the president of Goldsmith Enterprises. His laughter, filled with pride, echoed in the air, but it was the mention of Goldsmith Enterprises that truly caught my attention. The name was familiar, though I couldn't place it at first. Then, it clicked. As Mason continued to gloat, unaware of the humor I found in his bragging, I reflected on my life. My name is Patricia, and I'm 37 years old, living contentedly with my husband, Mason. I work in my family's real estate business, primarily handling administrative duties, while my father, the president, manages the company's broader strategies. As an only child, I'm expected to lead the company one day. Despite this looming responsibility, I've always strived to balance my personal and professional life, especially with Mason. Mason, who graduated high school and works at a moving company, has a physically demanding job I deeply respect. To avoid making him feel inadequate, I seldom mention my university degree or my anticipated future as company president. We met through a mutual friend during college after Mason's company helped her move. Initially, he was interested in her, but after she turned him down, we started to get to know each other. His laid-back demeanor complemented my meticulous nature, and our relationship blossomed. We married in our late 20s after a brief courtship, and his parents warmly embraced me, making my transition into his family seamless. For the most part, our marriage was smooth. Mason's demanding job often left him exhausted, but he remained devoted, even on his toughest days. He expressed gratitude when I stayed up to share dinner with him. I felt fortunate to have such a caring partner. However, after a year of marriage, cracks began to form in our once harmonious life. One night, as we prepared for bed, Mason unexpectedly brought up the topic of children. His tone, tinged with irritation, caught me off guard. While I also wanted children, I believed it would happen naturally with time. It's only been a year, there's no rush, I reassured him. Despite my calm, Mason grew assertive, quoting statistics about the likelihood of conceiving within a year. The figure he mentioned seemed high, but I suggested a practical solution. If you're concerned, maybe we should both get tested, I said, hoping to address any issues together. His reaction stunned me. What are you implying? That it's my fault? He snapped. Usually, it's the woman's fault. His tone was laced with contempt. I was taken aback. I had never accused him of anything, yet, Mason seemed intent on blaming me. It's definitely the woman's fault, he added coldly. Hurt and shaken, I could barely muster a reply. Of course, I said softly, so just you get tested. I'm too busy with work. His response was equally harsh. I have a job too. You know, you're just coasting along in your dad's company. His words stung. While my role involved administrative tasks, I was actively learning from my father, preparing to lead the business. That night, any attempt at discussion was futile, and we fell asleep turned away from each other, a heavy silence lingering between us. Over time, Mason's attitude shifted drastically. One evening, after a long meeting with my father, I returned home to find him irate over dinner not being ready. I'm sorry, I explained hastily. I just got home 15 minutes ago. I'll start cooking now. But Mason dismissed my apology. Typical of a small company's boss's daughter, he scoffed, failing to grasp the scale of my father's enterprise, a significant real estate firm with hundreds of employees. His bitterness cast a shadow over our daily lives. That night, as I rushed to the kitchen, I suggested he relax with a drink while I cooked. Alcohol, though a temporary balm, had become a troubling staple in maintaining peace. It pained me to see our relationship reduced to this. The next morning, his cold demeanor persisted as he left for work, his parting words sharp, "Make sure dinner's ready." When I got home, I exhaled deeply, my mind focused on the day ahead. I had taken the day off to visit the gynecologist for fertility testing, something Mason had insisted on, though he refused to participate himself. It was frustrating to face this alone, but complaining wouldn't change anything. If the problem lay with me, I was determined to start treatment immediately. Time was precious, fertility declines with age, and I wanted to address any issues without delay. The clinic was crowded, and I waited an hour before my examination. After a series of tests, the doctor explained that the results would be ready at my next appointment. The possibility that I might be the source of our fertility struggles was daunting, but I resolved to take whatever steps were necessary. When Mason came home that evening, I told him, "I went for the fertility test today." His response was as cutting as it was dismissive. Figures if the problem's with you. It's good you're getting tested. Let me know the results. His assumption that I was solely to blame was hurtful, yet I held back my frustration, unwilling to escalate the tension. 6 years passed, and I turned 37. Our attempts to have a child remained unsuccessful, and Mason seemed to have resigned himself to the idea of never becoming a father. His late nights became more frequent, and sometimes he didn't come home at all. When he did, he would casually explain that he'd been out drinking and singing karaoke until dawn. His behavior resembled that of a carefree college student rather than a committed husband, and it was increasingly infuriating. Meanwhile, my career demands grew, and I had to push the dream of starting a family aside. But Mason's actions were becoming intolerable. His disregard for our marriage was painfully evident. One day, on his day off, Mason left the house but forgot his smartphone in the living room. I picked it up to place it in our bedroom, but it rang just then. The caller ID displayed a name, Diana. Assuming she was a colleague, I answered to let her know Mason had left his phone at home. "Hey, Mason, you're late. I've been waiting for 50 minutes, hurry up, or we'll miss the park opening. We haven't had a date in so long," a flirtatious voice said. I froze, stunned. The mention of a date sent my heart racing. This woman wasn't just a colleague, she was someone Mason was seeing romantically. My hands trembled as I hung up the phone, disbelief and anger coursing through me. While I had been dealing with the weight of potential infertility, Mason had been carelessly engaging in an affair. His recent distance and indifference now made perfect, painful sense. Still holding his phone, I felt the urge to confirm my suspicions. Unlocking it using his birthdate, I scrolled through his call history and messages. The evidence was undeniable. His exchanges with Diana were full of affectionate and intimate words that turned my stomach. I meticulously documented everything, taking photos of the messages and call logs with my phone. Then, I placed his device back in its usual spot, acting as though nothing had changed. A month passed in this unsettling limbo. One day, my father, the president of our company, called me into his office. "I have something important to discuss with you," he said gravely. His tone made me brace for serious news, adding another layer of stress to my already overwhelming situation. That evening, Mason, perhaps sensing the inevitable, suggested we consider separating. His timing couldn't have been more convenient. I had already been preparing to address his infidelity and initiate a divorce. "Yes, let's divorce," I agreed quickly. Mason seemed taken aback by my readiness, perhaps expecting resistance. His relief, likely fueled by thoughts of a future with Diana, stung deeply. He handed me divorce papers the next day, which I signed without hesitation. "I'll file these tomorrow. I'll be leaving the house," he said nonchalantly. "Are you sure about the mortgage?" I asked, suspecting he hadn't fully considered his financial situation. His job, while demanding, wasn't lucrative enough to cover the payments alone, but I didn't feel any obligation to cushion his transition. A few days later, I moved back to my parents' house. They were initially concerned about my well-being but became furious when I revealed Mason's betrayal. Their support and reassurance helped solidify my decision to leave him behind. I threw myself into work, using my responsibilities to distract from the emotional wreckage of my failed marriage. A year passed in a whirlwind of projects and commitments. One evening, noticing how consumed and fatigued I'd become, my father suggested I take a break. "Why don't you take a trip? Things will only get busier next month," he said, his concern evident. Grateful for the suggestion, I decided to take a solo trip to the Northeast, craving peace and a change of scenery. The crisp air of the Northeast was invigorating, cleansing my weary soul. The locals were kind and welcoming, their warmth slowly mending my spirit. Wanting to indulge in the best experience possible, I booked a stay in a renowned Los Angeles hotel for the final leg of my journey. After checking in, I settled into the lobby with a welcome drink, letting the fatigue of the past year melt away. For the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of hope for what lay ahead. The serene atmosphere of the hotel lobby wrapped around me as I sipped my drink, feeling a rare and precious sense of peace. I half-joked to myself about moving to Los Angeles when a familiar voice pierced through my thoughts. "Huh? Hey, what are you doing here?" I turned, startled, and my heart sank. It was Mason, my ex-husband, entering the lobby with 2 large suitcases. The last thing I expected on this journey of healing was to encounter him. Beside him was a young woman, likely in her early 20s, with flawless skin, bold makeup, and striking red nails. She wore a short skirt that seemed inappropriate for the chilly weather, but her confidence carried it off. "Mason?" I blurted out, disbelief clear in my voice. Who is she? Oh, let me introduce you, Mason said, grinning with an excitement I hadn't seen in years. This is Diana, my new wife. We're on our honeymoon, and guess what? She's the daughter of a wealthy businessman. Diana, the name hit me like a thunderclap. She was the same Diana from the phone call that had revealed Mason's betrayal. A wave of discomfort surged through me as Mason's pride in marrying someone young and rich became all too obvious. You're here alone? That's sad, Mason sneered, his words dripping with disdain. Diana smirked as she eyed me. Mason, is this your ex-wife? She asked, her tone sharp. She looks old. Hurry up with the check-in, she added, irritated. Mason draped an arm around her and laughed, a grating sound that broke the tranquility of the lobby. Yeah, I'm set for life now, marrying into money. Thanks for making the divorce so easy, Patricia, he said mockingly. Diana's dad is the head of Goldsmith Enterprises. They even paid off our house mortgage in a snap. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Goldsmith Enterprises? I said casually. Oh, I know them. Their main office is in that big building downtown, right? Mason looked momentarily surprised. You've been there? Yes, I replied evenly. That building is part of my father's real estate portfolio. He bought it recently for $500 million. He's mentioned them before. They're a tenant, though apparently not the best one. Mason and Diana exchanged puzzled glances. What do you mean? Diana asked, her confidence wavering. I let the silence linger for a moment before continuing. Goldsmith Enterprises has been late on their rent for months. My father was just talking about starting legal action if it doesn't get resolved. Diana's face paled. That's impossible. Our company is doing great, she stammered, her voice filled with doubt. I'm not making this up, I said calmly, pulling out my phone. I called my father and asked him to send over the most recent rent notice. Within moments, I showed them the document, which clearly listed Goldsmith Enterprises' overdue payments. Diana's bravado crumbled. Come to think of it, she murmured, Dad has been stressed lately, talking about slow sales and layoffs. Mason, however, exploded in denial. You're lying. You're just trying to ruin us. You've always been spiteful, he shouted, his accusations loud enough to draw glances from nearby guests. His words were a sharp echo of our troubled past, but this time, they didn't sting. Spiteful? I repeated, my tone steady. Mason, I have no reason to care about your life. You moved on, and so have I. I just feel sorry for Diana. Did you marry her for her money, just like you rushed into marriage with me to have kids? You always blame others for your problems, but here's the truth, I'm over you. Completely. Mason's face twisted with anger. Arrogant as ever, he spat. You can't even have kids. Diana and I are planning to start a family after this trip. I smiled faintly. Oh, I didn't mention it, did I? I'm 5 months pregnant. His jaw dropped. I remarried, I continued. My husband supports me in every way you never could. And for the record, Mason, I had no fertility issues. The clinic confirmed it years ago. If you're wondering why you and Diana haven't conceived, maybe you should take a hard look at yourself. The color drained from Mason's face. Does that mean I'm? His voice faltered. Diana's scorn flared. You're infertile? Why didn't you tell me? She snapped. Feeling no need to linger, I delivered my final words. Please settle the overdue rent soon, or we'll pursue legal action. Goodbye, Mason. As I walked away, their voices rose in an argument behind me. Back in my room, I felt a deep sense of closure. When I returned from the trip, my husband greeted me warmly. Welcome back. I hope you had a chance to relax. I did, I replied, smiling. For the first time in years, I felt truly free from my past. Later, I learned through my father's connections that Goldsmith Enterprises had spiraled into financial ruin, mired in scandal and debt. Mason's dreams of luxury had crumbled as swiftly as they'd been built. My life, by contrast, was filled with new beginnings and genuine love. I had moved on, not just from Mason, but from the shadow he had cast over my life.